Okay, after completing the forecast financial statements, we are going to work on the valuation. Before we work on the valuation, all these numbers actually I've already entered, but I'm going to discuss each number I entered. But before that, I want to discuss the model and theory. So all the valuation model are actually, based on this general model. The difference is what projected future payoffs you use. For example, dividends, free cash flow for only common equity shareholders, or free cash flow available for all capital providers, or other different models. The other one is the discount rate. Actually, for dividend and free cash flow available for common equity shareholders, we use the return on common equity as a discount rate, because both dividends and the free cash flow for common equity shareholders, these are all the returns for common equity holders. So we use the return on common equity as a discount rate. But if we use the model free cash flow available for all capital providers, we use weighted average cost of capital as a discount rate. Okay, that's actually you should learn in the finance class. How to calculate the dividends and free cash flow are in the notes. Okay, I'm not going to discuss this part in this video. And also the spreadsheet Excel, actually the template will calculate these payoffs for you. Okay, depends on the forecast financial statements. Okay, so the discount rate basically are two we are going to use. One is cost of common equity capital. The other is WACC, okay, weighted average cost of capital. First one, cost of common equity capital, also called required return for common equity holders. Okay, we use RE. For this discount rate, we can apply the capital assets pricing model. So the capital assets pricing model is the expected return on common equity capital is equals to the free risk return plus beta, or we call market risk factor, multiple this part is market risk premium, which is the difference between expected market return, and expected free risk return. Okay, so actually there are only three factors we need to calculate the return on common equity capital. One is free risk return. One is beta, market risk factor. Another one is return, expected return, market return. Okay, so these three. Or we can define this part as market risk premium, okay, which is the difference between market return and free risk return. And all of these actually are available, although they are not actually accurate. But we have no other choice. Okay, first, free risk return and market risk premium. The RF and RM. Okay, so you can go to the web page, this one. Okay, actually you can just search market risk premium and you can find this web page. Okay. And there are three variables. Okay. Implied market return, market risk premium, and the free risk return. The market risk premium actually is the difference between implied market return and the free risk return. Okay, so actually all three variables keep changing. Right? What you need is just find the three variables in the right year and month. Okay, so you can enter the year, month, date here. Okay, so you can find the two variables we have in the model, we need in the model, right? The next one is beta. Beta actually is also available. For example, I use Yahoo Finance, search Apple, or the ticker symbol AAPL, you can find beta is 1.34. Different web pages provide different value of beta because they use different windows or different different methods to calculate. Okay? But you can simply use one of them. Okay, so after we got these three variables, we can calculate the return on common equity capital. Okay, so here in the valuation tab, in this section, cost of equity capital, actually it's cost of common equity capital, we enter three variables here. One is beta, as we found in the Yahoo Finance, which is 1.34, right? And the risk-free rate and the market risk premium. Okay, what I did is, because the financial statement date of Apple is in September 2016. Okay, so we simply lock it September. Okay, so September 2016, we have the market risk premium 4.57, risk-free return 1.6. We copy these two numbers into the spreadsheet. 4.6. Right. I didn't enter 4.57, I just entered 4.6. There's no big difference. Okay. Now the Excel will calculate. So actually this is capital assets pricing model, right? So we get the cost of common equity capital is 7.8%. Okay, so this discount rate can be applied to the model, as I said, can be applied to the dividend model or free cash flow available for common equity shareholders. We also have another model is the payoff is free cash flow available for all capital providers. So the different calculations for the free cash flow, we need to use different discount rate. The discount rate we use is WACC. So the next is how to calculate WACC. Actually, WACC, the formula is this. We assume the capital structure of the company is simple. This part is product of the weight capital debt, the weight of capital debt. That's return on debt, and this is a factor to calculate the after-tax cost of debt. Okay. The next item is the weight of preferred stock and the return on preferred stock. This is the weight of equity, common equity. This is a return on common equity. And actually RE we've already got from the CAP model. The last one is the weight of non-controlling interest and the return on non-controlling interest. So to calculate WACC, we should know all these variables. And if the company only has these 4 types of capitals, okay, the weight of them just equals to 1, represents 100%. Okay, and WD, WP, WE, WNIC just represents the weight of each type of capital. Okay, and when we calculate the weight, we should use the market value. Okay, so if the market value is not available, we can just use the book value of the latest year. Okay, so next we are going to calculate the weight and also the cost of each capital. Actually, the cost of debt capital is, you can go to, we use Apple as an example, right? So we go to Apple's 10K form, you can search, okay, and in the note 6, okay, here is note 6, right, long-term debt. We find the Apple actually borrowed a lot, right? A different interest of each debt. I don't have time to calculate the weighted average of this cost of debt. I just simply use the number, the median, okay, like a number around 3% as the cost of debt before tax. And also Apple disclosed the fair value of the debt. See, the fair value of company's debt based on the level 2 inputs is $81.7 billion. Okay, so we should use the fair value of the debt and the cost of debt and effective tax rate. So let's go back to the spreadsheet. So this part we are going to calculate, okay, the cost of debt. And 81,700 represents 81.7 billion. Okay? Because in this spreadsheet we use billion as a unit. So that's the market value of the total debt. Now we are going to use this one to calculate the weight. Actually, the WD. Right, so we can calculate WD, return on debt, right, and also the tax rate, effective tax rate or actual tax rate. The tax rate here is 26, right? Where we got it is actually here. Okay. When we forecast the financial statements, also when we calculate the interest expense in the forecast financial statements, I assume the effective tax rate in the future is 26. Okay, that's why I use negative 26 to represent the effective tax rate. As I said, I just use a median number 3% as the cost of debt before tax. Or you can actually calculate the weighted average cost of debt by using all this information. But it seems very time consuming, right? So I just use a number in the middle, like 3%. Okay. So I enter 3% here, and effective tax rate negative 26%. So the after-tax cost of debt is 2.2. Okay. So which is before tax cost of debt multiple 1 actually subtract the effective tax rate, right? So that's a cost of debt after tax. Because the next one is based on model is weight of we first discuss the common equity. Okay, weight of common equity and return on common equity. Return on common equity we've already calculated by using the capital assets pricing model. What's a weight? Okay, the weight of the common equity is determined by this part. What is? Okay, this is the share price of the date of the balance sheet date. Okay, the date is in September 2016. That's a share price just on that date. And this number is the number of shares outstanding. So the market cap of Apple is a product of these two numbers. Okay, so we use this to represent the weight, okay, the dollar amount of common equity. Okay, this one is a dollar amount of fair value of the debt. This is the fair value of the equity, right? Because we use a fair price, fair value, the market price of equity. Okay, so now we have complete this part and this part. The next two are preferred stock and retain the net non-controlling interest. For Apple, let's go back to the forecast financial balance sheet. Okay, and preferred stock, Apple 0, right? So there's no preferred stock, so there's no return on preferred stock. So we just simply enter 0 to this part. And non-controlling interest again 0. So it is very simple. Right, so in the spreadsheet of Apple, okay, we if you enter 0, usually there's an error because 0 cannot be the denominator cannot be 0, right? So you can manually enter 0 to the cost of preferred stock and the cost of non-controlling interest. Okay, and when you enter all these numbers, okay, and we have the cost of equity, common equity 7.8%. This discount rate will be used in the dividend and free cash flow available for common equity shareholders model. The WACC actually is calculated here. Okay, so these three cells represents the weight of each capital. So based on the fair value of equity, fair value of debt, and 0 for both preferred stock and 0 for non-controlling interest. So the weight of common equity is 88%. The debt is 11%. And the other two variables are 0 because nothing, right? Okay, and each multiple the cost of each capital. Okay, so the weighted average or WACC is 7.12. Okay, so this is a formula. Just apply the formula here. So now we calculate the WACC. So when we have all the discount rate, right? Discount rate, this one and this one, you can find Excel give us the results of the valuation. Okay, and the first four, they're supposed to get the results supposed to be the same. The reason, okay, so here is a small difference. I believe there is a round up and round down, the effect of round up and round down. And this one is because when we forecast the balance sheet, we use retained earnings as a flexible account, right? So we make adjustment to the retained earnings here manually to balance the balance sheet. So that's why, see here, we decrease the retained earnings, right, by this amount of each year. So it will actually manually decrease the payoffs to the shareholders. That's why for the dividend model, the value of shares is less than other models. Okay, so if we choose retained earnings as a flexible account, the results is different from others. And okay, so for example, the dividend-based model. Okay, so this is a calculation of a dividend. Okay, and the process here are actually to discount, to calculate present value of these payoffs. Okay, and the present value is 135 for dividend model. Okay. We also find the results of free cash flow for all debt and equity valuation is different. The reason is when we calculate the WACC, we use the market price of a certain date, right, which is different from the valuation we use. Okay, so that's why there's a difference between this model and the rest. Okay, because when we calculate WACC, we use this market price to determine the fair value of common equity. Okay, so actually the rest of these tables help us to calculate the value of common equity. Okay, and you will find there's also a sensitivity analysis. So what's a sensitivity analysis? Here is the results from the dividend model 144. Right, it's 144. Our dividend model is 135. Yeah, and this model is free cash flow for common equity. So 144 and 49 cents is a valuation from free cash flow available for common equity holders, and this is a point estimate, right? This model only gave us a number. Actually, we know all this number is if all other variables are the same, it will change when the discount rate and long-term growth assumption changes. Okay, we know it's better to give us a range rather than a point, right? So 144 and 49 cents is we assume the long-run growth rate is 3% and the cost of equity is almost 8%. So actually we can locate it here. Long-run growth rate 3% and the discount rate is about 7. Yeah, it's actually around here between 137 and 194. So actually, if I choose these 9 cells, it means if we change the long-run growth rate assumption from 2 or to 4 rather than the 3, right? Or we change the discount rate from 7% to 9%. So this gives us a range of the share value. So the minimum is 101. The maximum is 221. Right. So that's all, give us a range, because initially we assume the long-run growth rate is 3%, right? But some people don't agree. They probably prefer 2%, some prefer 4%, because they have different informations, or we can calculate them different way to get different discount rate. So we could get a range, and the minimum is here and the maximum is here. Right. Then we compare the range with what? The current market price, right? The current market price is 113 or 114 almost. So 114 in this range, most likely, the stock value is, in most cases, is greater than 114. Right? The only case is when the growth rate is 2% and discount rate is 9% high. So in this case, the stock price in the future, or the value of Apple stock, are more likely to be greater than the current price, right? So that means the stock value of Apple are undervalued, okay, in a high probability. So I would recommend the investors to buy the stock now, because the fundamental is greater than the current market price, 114